Hello, everybody, and welcome to TFC Season 3 Open Mic Episode 39. And I titled this one OP11, Terra TLCs, and VXP. Got some folks here on the panel with us. First off, welcome to Benjamin.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, and we have Brian.
Ahoy.
And Hefe.
Howdy, everybody.
Samuel.
Good evening.
And Venom.
Good evening.
Okay, so first off, OP11. Lots of changes this week, some good, some things that were missing. They included advanced resource generators. These are ones that you can build to build uranium and titanium. These are not stealable by base attacks. I know that was a concern for people. Initially, they released these, and I think it was like 24 hours or 24 TRU an hour to go ahead and manufacture or mine or whatever. And then they upped that to, I think it was like 2,500 and then 5K per day. So that was a good increase. They also included Conquest Yard upgrades. The current Conquest Yard that we have is basically renamed, and there's a new level 1, and then there's a new level 3 Conquest Yard. The level 3 Conquest Yard goes ahead and opens up the expert builders. And they also increased the storage capacity with the War Academy, went from 25 to 60. So some good things there. Things that were missing that were kind of confusing to people, but apparently will be released a little later on, and that is new turrets if we're going to get any land tiles, things like that. And there was no power upgrade for the base, which I know is causing people some issues. So with that, I'll turn it over to the panel, and what do you guys think?
Does anybody know the impact that the Conquest Yard with the expert build has on Tier 7? Does it have one? And if so, what is it?
I can look real quick.
Okay. I'm just wondering if it's at 10% or what percentage time savings that we're getting at this point, because I still haven't finished upgrading my outpost. We can get back to that, so so we're not dead air.
For the width, why did it load that one? For a witch doctor, blank haul, without the expert, it's 15 hours, 14 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
With the expert, it's 13 hours, 43 minutes. 300 mil of each res, 195K titanium with the expert.
Okay, so they're asking for an additional 75K titanium.
And 100 mil of each res.
Yeah, they did state in the detailed release notes that it was not going to be like a flat rate. So it wasn't like a 10% increase across the board. It was varied by hull and components, I think.
I think it was just the hull. And that's what the price increase is just associated with. I think it's, I think the percentage is based, I agree with you that it's based on the hull, but I think the reduction is, like the components, you're still going to have whatever build time it might be, but the hull drives the percentage reduction of the components is the way, at least the way I understood it.
I just checked the missile storm cruiser and impact cruiser also.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 75K titanium, 100 mil each res for the expert.
And the same time reduction?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So any other thoughts on that?
It's I think it's a good one to use if you have the to do pretty quickly, because I think a lot of people from the TLCs have sufficient tokens to do it instantly. So if you have the tokens, I would go ahead and, I guess there's no reason not to do it, but it's only available on fresh builds. So, and the way we're building keeps on changing so much that, saving 2 hours, but you're going to save a lot more if you put all the armors on it and you build it out. You're still going to have that. It sounds like around a 15% reduction. I didn't get the minutes in there, but as far as what the actual time reduction, I couldn't tell if it was 10 or 15%. I'll have to look back and do unless Brian did the math.
It was about 10. It was about 15 and quarter hours, and then it was 13 and 3/4 hours. So you're down about an hour and a half.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you start putting the armors and the weapons and the specials, you'll get that same 10% reduction on those as well.
That I wouldn't know. Mine isn't done yet.
Okay. At least that's the way it was explained.
I wonder what happens first. When is Conqueror Tier 8 going to come out? And then second, what is that going to do then to Tier 7, Tier 6, Tier 5 Conquerors? Are they going to increase based on a schedule? Has Kickside planned that far ahead? Or are they going to have to figure that out? So we'll see, because I think that's the most... No, they're planned to be about the same. I think January is for Siege now because of the 3-month cycle for Skirmish, and January should be the start of the next Conqueror tier, I think. Because didn't Tier 7 start at start of the calendar year?
I don't know. They talked about 6 to 8 weeks with the refractor, but I don't know if that includes Tier 8 or if that's just them trying to fix PvP in general.
I think they're just trying to fix PvP. I'm not sure they have the foresight to consider Tier 8, if they even have a date for it, into the refactor. Hopefully they'll apply the principles of the refactor going forward, but you never know.
Yeah, and this feels like one of those things that they need to be reminded about to change the Tier 7s, like you just mentioned. But this sounds like things they've sort of forgotten in the past, such as like the repair specialist and the foundry and the retro lab, and the list can go on as far as the things that they've created, these little side projects, and they're supposed to reduce on a schedule, and then it's sort of, whoever's in charge of that gets put onto something else, and it doesn't always get picked back up. That's one of my fears associated with this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know Foundry hasn't been updated in forever. But the timing on these, I thought OP was reasonable. I was ecstatic that they dropped the lower level, I guess the original level 1 Conquest Yard down to, I think it was 6 days. For lower level people to be able to get that in and start, streamlining and having 2 build streams. So I thought that was an awesome job by Kix. The other ones though, because your people are jumping out there with the base race to finish their OP, and looking at the shipyard, that's like a 16-day upgrade. So, I've been hoarding tokens forever waiting for this to come out, and I'm going to have to still hoard them if I want to go ahead and get that done in a reasonable time.
Yeah, I really hope, because the last time the OP10 came out, they had a TLC that had a lot of structure build tokens and ones that we could hold. There were 7 days where you maxed out at 5. We got some 5 days where you maxed out at 2, I think. And I checked the other day. Fortunately, I can tug through and get my shipyard done without time loss, but that's a very rare case, I feel. I think they're going to need to find that old TLC and rerun it. And I would like to think that they did that as is, not increase the power of it like they did other TLCs that we'll talk about in a bit. But just something that you can do to get tokens to get your stuff done. Because our shipyards can't stop.
Yeah.
We can't afford it.
And that's the kicker on it. Everything else you can use while it's upgrading, but that one you can't. And if you're somebody that's still catching up, or let's say you're not a huge coiner, or you're not able to get all of the tokens from all the TLCs for the newer hulls and things like that, that's an issue. I mean, I've still got guys that are just now starting to upgrade the other stuff because they can use base parts for it. So Yeah, I like that. I think they included, was it Legion they included this time? Or Scourge? One of the two.
Oh, as far as the build time reduction,
Yeah.
it's Legion. It's Legion for the shipyard, and it's already included in the Conqueror yard. Yeah, so you get Legion and the expert build with the upgrade. Yep. So it's not really. I don't know. Does anybody have any issues with their razor tails or anything as far as weight goes?
Me.
You are? Okay.
Trying to put all the new rockets on, and I put Cluster Warheads 3 on. Combustion System 2, I went pretty weight heavy, and extending that out to armor weight, I'm a little strapped.
Yeah, and I think that doesn't the dock bring us up when that gets done now to like 200K in weight? I'm assuming we're going to have some very chubby fleets coming out soon.
Yeah, that's sort of disappointing.
Are we having a sloth 2.0?
That
would increase your weight. Like sloths are a struggle at the moment as it is, so if we get a sloth 2.0, we'll definitely need the extra room.
Yeah, but they told us that they weren't going to negate the old halls when they moved up, but they did the same exact thing that we went from tier 6 to tier 7, where they've doubled the weight that we're allowed to have, and which makes me feel that, you know, the new weapons aren't going to be able, new weapons aren't, and armors or whatever's coming out won't be retrofittable, at least that easily, onto a tier 7 hall. And there's a potential for a huge amount of power creep between the tier 7 and tier 8 if you're going to be doubling these weights.
You still have to remember there's the refactor to come, and we don't know at the moment if the weight's going to be changing of anything, that we may need the 200K. For example, it could be changing defenses on ships such that your weight's going to be drastically increased by putting specials on.
But why would they just double the weight of everything? That doesn't make sense. People need time to get their upgrade done, and
it's not about doubling. It's your general progression as you go forward. If they change defenses in PvP, anything new may go over that weight. If you're running 5 of the 5 tier 7 hulls, you're getting up there in weight. With the refactor, you don't know what's coming. You can't see, but it could be increasingly heavy. Specific to the refactor.
They need to wait until tier 8 if they're going to bring out strictly heavier components. You can't just go and change the weight of the components we have now willy-nilly. That happened with when they updated the skirmish stuff for, I believe it was the Hellwraith, where they made everything heavier, and you couldn't refit your Tiger Sharks because adding the extra armor added the invisible weight, so people's builds that were just under the line became overweight. And I'd like to think they learned from that, and if they didn't learn from that then, they're learning from it now because I'm telling them, don't do that. That's dumb. That's going to lead to overweight fleets and a lot of tickets, and you don't want that, so just don't. Wait for tier 8 to give your 2,000-ton weapons. And we've already seen weapon weight increases, or just weight increases in general, with the Protocent, which is tier 7.5 and only good for one thing, except it's not, and now it's dead in the water. Sorry, I'm trying to use languages right for this show. So how they had the very heavy pack 2, but the hull itself had a minus 20% weapon weight, things like that could be done too. And they've already done it, such that, yeah, you can fit 1 or 2 of those cannons on your older hulls, but it's not worth it to do so. You're sacrificing so many other weapon slots to get those on, or so much other weight that you probably need to cut down in weapon slots to get those on.
Yeah, it's almost like they haven't put a tier restriction on the newer components that are coming out, but they've kind of done it behind the scenes with the weight.
I thought that was, in one sense, I thought that was clever, and in another sense, it's like, well, great, I can't put this on, so I have to put these on this new thing. At that point, it's like, why are they giving us the ability to build ships and choose? If you're going to narrow things down that hard, and I guess technically they do that because of the weight itself, but if you're going to literally say this is illegal to equip to anything except for a tier 8 siege hull, let's say, what the hell's the point?
Yeah, I wasn't complaining about the weight increase. I was just explaining how complaining or worried about how large it is. I understand if we went from went up 30%, but to double it just seems excessive.
Yeah, they're probably gonna all the old ships. I think I just think that's another way of obsoleting old tech and making it seem like it's okay. Like, I mean, I think they really will just double the weight of everything. The new tech is going to be strong enough, but you can't put it back on the old ships. But yes, no, I agree. And then tier 6 to tier 7 Conqueror armor values.
Yeah, and they said they weren't going to do that. That's why I brought it up, because in one of the Kicksai Live shows, Ron Thinker said they learned their lesson from going from tier 6 to tier 7, and now we're seeing this, and that's what I was referring to. And you were saying that the prototypes are good at the Fangtooth TLC.
No, I was talking about ProtoSense
Okay,
and how they might have
okay.
sort of good for the SSRB, except not really. To understand it.
Yeah.
Can I just go back and clarify a couple of things on my point? If you look at the progression between your armors in PvP, you've got your MC Plate 2 at 900 tons, and then your MC Plate 3 at 1,200. At the point we're at the moment, we need, if they add something new, a new turret, for example, you're going to need armors to cover 3 deflections at high values. So you're looking at an armor which is going to be values sort of higher than the MC Plate 3, but 3 values. So your weight progression there is going to be changed. It's going to go from, say, 1,200 to 1,500 at least. So when you're going through it that way, if they're going to refactor, you'd expect them to change the weights of the fleets to allow that to fit in. And they've already got it there, and we know from the past that they tend to almost force people to coin specific things. So things like your dock being upgraded, there's a high possibility that yes, once the refactor comes out, you're going to have your dock upgraded. It's happened in the past. Yes, it's all well and good that they're saying, "Oh, we're gonna learn from the past," but if you look at the progression from the past, it's always we've made a mistake, we're putting our hands up, and then do the exact same mistake again and say, "Oh, sorry, we did this mistake. We're not going to do it again," and then a repeat of it. So it's highly likely that with the refactor, you're going to need your dock up there. It's just easy to see from the past.
I guess the only saving grace is the dock. You can use that while it's still upgrading.
Yes.
I still don't understand. I still don't understand the logic, other than generating coin. I still don't understand the logic of why every other building, while it's upgrading, it still does its stuff. If you're upgrading a turret, it still shoots with the old stuff while it's upgrading. You can still use your dock. I don't understand the logic behind that. But okay, Benjamin, thoughts on OP11?
I like it so far. I think the generators are going to help the lower levels. The weight increase from the shipyard, I'm nervous on that.
Yeah, I do agree. I know the 24 an hour was a wee bit laughable when they first set it out, but I do like the increases that they have, 2,500 per day, I think, for the lower U. And there are people are like, oh, this is useless, it doesn't help me. Maybe it doesn't help everybody, but if it's, someone lower, that's struggling to get uranium and basically uses just the U they get from the FM, there's a lot of the refits that are out there for, you know, components that are still used today that are starting down at that much lower rate. So in one day they can build the U to go ahead and do those refits and then use their other U for crews and things like that. So I do like that. It would be nice. And yes, the Gus Gaiman Mayor, sorry if I butchered your name there, base parts generator. Yeah, that would be nice as well. But there are a lot of the lower targets there for that as well. So
The issue is, even if it was for low-level players, you're only getting small amounts. I think was it not 300k per 30 days? That's when you're talking about higher level retrofits, you're talking 50k plus each, and you're making what 300k per month. That's tiny. I've got one of them in, and you barely notice that it's there. Like even rolling crews, you're talking about, for level 1, you're getting about 1k a day, and at that you can roll 1 crew.
yeah, I'm not saying for them to do it for rolling crews, but you know, for like the initial retros. I mean, I didn't start retroing forever because I didn't have any way to get uranium, you know, other than what was in the FM. So there's a lot, and I actually went out and looked at this. There are, yes, a lot of the higher end newer components start at, you know, 50,000 and then go up to, I think the most I saw was 90k. But there are a lot of lower ones. The first 4 or 5 levels are less than 2k. So if you can knock them out just by, you know, doing that in the background, it's worth it.
And, you know, what if you're a returning player who got their fleet of what should be icebreakers, but is a raid fleet? What if you don't even have tides, or what if all you've got is tides? Do you really want to go out and hit the 50 whatever Scourge and take tons of damage and get a pittance of uranium compared to your needs? Or if you don't even have tides, you have to research them, which I think itself might cost uranium, and then build them. But there's too busy with so many other things to catch up in. Now it's a skirmish raid cycle, so I guess you should be building for that. But it takes so long to even get a fleet of those things in the water that the U that you get from that is probably going to be very significant, even against what you could get just doing U normally.
Yeah. Samuel, your thoughts on the OP11?
I don't consider it useful as of yet.
Okay.
I've sort of been looking forward to having more choice in terms of defense platform structures and stuff, and the fact that it didn't have that with it was a little disappointing.
How many, just a quick poll of everybody that's on here, how many of you are close to or kind of sneaking up on your power limit?
Me?
Not me.
I don't have half my turrets.
Nope.
Are you still rebuilding yours, Venom, or?
No, I just don't build them.
Oh, okay. Now, I know some that are and some that aren't. I mean, I think I'm about 2k away, but I've not upgraded a lot of my newer turrets. But there are some people that are butting up against it. But okay. So any other thoughts on OP11?
I was sort of curious, Ben, are you equipping a lot of like resource generators, or I'm not even sure. I'm like $8,000 away. I just don't know how you're approaching those levels.
Well, I have all my turrets at max. With the what are they called? Specials and everything on them. Armor, tac mods, or transformers. I only have 5 oil wells in my base.
Okay, but do you have them equipped with specials?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have other stuff that's, because I have all my turrets are maxed out. But I only have I have like 2 oil wells, and I have a couple of things with fire support on them. But like I said, I'm not even close, even though I'm bumping the limit on pretty much all of my turrets. So I'm just curious how people are getting to those numbers. So I guess somewhat the resource generators.
I'm about 5K away from being maxed out.
Okay, so you're not. Okay, I thought you were. It sounds like Robin's the closer one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that was OP11. Again, the release notes are out there if you've not taken a look at them. They're also on the TFC website. So let's move into, there's no other way to call this or nothing else to call this other than really, really ugly. And I called it the Terra TLCs. I think it's Whiplash and Devilfish. These were high-end TLCs. Kix has come out publicly and stated that these are, not easy TLCs for people to do. They are out there for people with top of the line legendary fleets to be able to get the opposite hull for the one they didn't. So if you got the Bat Ray in the raid, this was the opportunity for you to go ahead and get the Razor and vice versa. Now, that being said, based on the posts and what I've been hearing scuttlebutt, it's a very, very tough, high damage TLC for those that are using scatter manticores. These are all tier 8 S targets. There are, I think it was level 1 was like 5 or 5, level 2 was like 6, 3 was higher, and then went up from there. Initial reports where people were dying in them with scatters. There's a huge amount of damage. I personally drive missile manticores. I do have the Hyper 30 on mine and the new the original 5-com armor. I never switched to the new one, so I have been able to get through all of them thus far in one go. But that's been like driving like a little old lady, taking my time, hoping like heck I don't get smacked by corrosive things. And it's been really tough. And for me, the damage I thought was just way too high. And when you hear multiple reports of people that are unable to do it with the fleets that they were able to use during the raid, and that coupled with a very high repair time has just been utterly painful. So I'm going to leave it to you guys now. What do you guys think?
If you try with with a fleet that's not optimized, it's just a half half-hourst, half-ranked fleet, you will die a painful death repeatedly, and it is not advised to even bother trying. It really is that bad. For the top fleets, it's hard, but for a fleet that's say a lower level that didn't manage to get the hull in the raid that really needs one of the hulls, it's just not possible.
Yeah, I think the first 3 are more difficult than I think they should be, to allow the technology to become obtainable. I could understand in the mastery rounds if they were like this, because it's basically just tokens. But yeah, they should be. I'm able to do it with one shot with my scatter manticores, but it should. I think the first 3 that are granting people the technology should be much easier for them. I know other people will complain, well, I spent all this in the raid to get them, but like Venom said, if somebody didn't get them in the raid, I mean, I guess, are they going to have any chance of getting them in this current raid if they don't have the Bat Ray or the Razor Tail? Are they going to? Is this technology going to be obtainable for them there as well?
Yeah, that's a key point. These are top of the line hulls. The hulls were, I think they were 60 million in the raid for the hull.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, hull
Yeah,
first.
that's.
I think it was 100 million for the whole shooting match.
Yeah, the hull first at 60 million, and then the tech above that. So, the hope was that somebody that spent the time to ground out the 60 million to get the hull could maybe go ahead and get the the special and the weapon to go with it with this. And if they don't have the full fleet of manticores, then 5 of them, even whether that's with the flag or not, then they're not getting through it. I mean, people are not even making it through the first level. And Kix has come out and said that Tide Seekers, I believe, are supposed to be able to do reasonable targets in the raid. And this is where it's one of those things, you miss it, you're basically screwed and you lose that time. If you can't get the hull for the next raid, you're either relegated to umpty hours of doing the raid on itty bitty targets, or you skip the cycle, or you have to wait till the co-op TLC comes out. And most of the players, people say, oh, it's spoon fed, that kind of stuff. Most of the players don't want to be. They want to earn it themselves, but they either run out of time or they're trying to build their fleets. And so doing it this way, I thought might have been an opportunity for people to fill in the gap for their missing tech, and that's obviously not the case.
Well, if it's a perspective of earning it, it at least has to be comparable to the same way you would be earning it in the raid, in terms of the effort you're putting in or the cost that it's costing you in terms of coin. And I think the TLC is far too difficult in terms of cost to be even slightly comparable to what you would have been doing in the raid to get the same sort of prize.
I think someone forgot that we don't have half repair in the normal daily play, and just cut and pasted the targets from the S set. I have Scattermanties. I refitted to the D6 armors because of their lower repair time. I still have TSM's build, which is flash-based. Technically doesn't have the newest stuff, but I like it because of its flash and because of its speed. And I couldn't do 3. I died on the last level, and I had to bring in some mostly dead phoenixes to win the day. And when you have to go through 3 S sets in a row and a whole new bonus target that's harder than the prior S set targets without half repair, I should be showered with tokens. But this is to get a hull that, even though it was 60 million in the raid, that price is no longer anywhere near valid. Even back then it isn't, because it's just like we said, if you can't get that tech in the raid, how are you going to earn it? Grinding B sets with tides with a hit down penalty? Do we really think that Kix is good enough at tuning to tune these properly for the B sets properly for the tides? Because I don't. Again, all the damage, even the best fleets, if I don't micro, like if you can see Venom's screen, he's doing where he's got the lead out in front. If you don't have a good enough connection and capability to micro your fleet like that, it's incredibly difficult. It was too hard, it wasn't tuned right, they weren't thinking, and for the people that's like, oh, well, we got this in the raid. Yes, you did. You got 3 weeks extra to build it. You got an extra 10, 15 days of tokens as well. You are 2 to 3 ships up on everybody else, depending on exactly how long your build is and what you get in the token chests. So stop complaining. If you want other people to be able to do this raid and get the tech and pay money to the game, maybe to keep your game free, you should really let them have this and just deal with it. To say nothing of the Cadies.
Yeah, there was Amit posted. Not sure if he posted a video, but he did post his builds where he actually took, I think, one of his missile manties and turned it into a scatter tank, which is working real well. But not every player has the ability to stop what they're doing in the shipyard or having the tokens to go ahead and build that tank ship. And we've always been able to, or supposedly be able to, do everything with one fleet and not have to have 2 fleets. It would be nice, but when that one fleet struggles to get through just one, even the lower levels, and we're not talking mastery where you run through it and then you put maybe 4 or 5 coins on there to speed up repair and half repair your last ships to get through that last level, where people are actually are not even able to do the lower levels. So I think we were joined. Hey Ren, how are you?
I'm good, Drew. You?
I'm doing very well, thanks. And I think Soul joined us as well. Hey, Brian.
Yo.
So, okay, Ren, your thoughts on the TLC?
I think packs 1 and 2 are just flat out wrong. Both in the price they pay and in the difficulty. It should be, pack 1 should be 80s, pack 2 should be 80s with one elite at the end. And then pack 3, you start, mixing and matching just maybe a couple of the hard 80s and then the rest elites. And then mastery, you can make it all elites. But the problem is you hit pack 1 and it's already all elite targets. And it's not even to get the hull. I mean, in the past, and we, like TSM, dug some good proof of that, showing that in the past, we'd have the hull and an older weapon in pack 1. Then we'd have the special in pack 2. And then we'd have the new weapon in pack 3. So at least people can get the ship and build a poor man's version of it. This time, you got to get to pack 3 to get the ship, which most people can do. I mean, without coining, of course. I mean, clearly the goal here is to get people to coin, not to get the ship for free.
All right, Sol, your thoughts?
It's extremely hard.
Yeah,
So,
that pretty much sums it up.
Well, this is broken.
I don't have the Makar's Manticore, so I'm only running 5 missile ships. No bonus, flag bonus. And what gets me is during the raid, the missiles I could shoot them all down, but there's always during these campaigns they added an evade to the missiles, so that's that's a problem because if you're doing the tank, and I don't tank for the turret missiles. But you still get my 3 dark wings getting hit, and that hurts them a lot.
Are you using MDS3? Because with MDS3, I'm getting them all.
No, I didn't get. I don't have those. I didn't win all of them, or that much. I do Phalanx 4s.
Okay, that makes a difference.
Yeah, even if you could just pop a couple on, I think my fleet's only got 3 total on the fleet, and the rest are Phalanx, and it's working well.
Well,
Yeah, I
during
just
the
have
raid,
one.
it was working just fine, and then during this campaign, I'm missing at least 30% of the missiles.
Yeah, I just have 1 and then some phalanxes, and I'm able to shoot them all down. So if you can scrap together 1.
And I've been testing, even back in the raid, and it still holds true. I started removing phalanxes and just keeping the MDS. And so I got to the point where my entire fleet now has 2 MDS3, and that's it. The rest is scatterguns, the rest is missiles, but it's just 2 MDS3, and no counterable missile hits me ever.
Excellent. So is anyone else on here running missile antis, or is everybody running scatters?
I run missiles.
Okay.
Yeah, I run missiles too.
Okay. I was just curious because I know a lot are still running the scatter.
I have them both, but I like the scatter to drive better. I'm more used to it because I was using it, during exclusively in the first 3 raids, and then I got the missiles in the 4th one, and they're not as well practiced with them. So
Yeah, same here. I got both, and I prefer my scatters.
Yeah, I switched to the missile because I like the precision driving, especially if prepping and things like that. But I can't tell you how jelly I was during the raid, watching everybody just stack the enemy ships and then wiping them all out. And 5 minutes later, I finally finished taking that one out.
Yeah, I got better and better with the missiles. With the scatterguns, I've tried the whole tank ahead and thing. I cannot master that. So even trying that, I'm finishing the TLC with 12, 13 hours of repairs. And with the missiles, which I've been using more, I'm down to 9 hours and change, to do a mastery. With that, what's the bearded guy crew that's good for missiles?
Wolfpack?
Wolfpack, thank
Yep.
you. Yeah. So that crew and the missile fleet, and I'm getting it 9 hours and change, in the low 9 hours 10, 9 hours 20 minutes.
Yeah, the other thing, and I kind of put this down on a picture the other day, and Ren's mentioned this many times, the repair time just in general, and not just for that hole. So if you figure that, 10, 11 hours on that hole, plus you're trying to finish your FM, plus you're doing base race, which was nice of Kicks to put out there. I'm certainly not complaining there. There's just not enough hours in the day.
I can certainly complain about the base race.
Why?
He doesn't have icebreakers.
If you scrap your
Oh.
icebreakers thinking, oh, we've got a new hull with dragons, this should be better, they should help me in the future, you got screwed over. You can't get the tokens without having to rebuild a obsolete fleet. Why would I build an obsolete fleet? Just pointless. And a lot of the players who come in new who will need the tokens, and they've gone through and put a lot of work into getting their dragons, and done well to get that far, are just getting screwed over too. You have to remember that not everyone's went out and built the icebreakers from FM. Some people have went out and worked hard to get the dragon and built the dragon instead, because it's supposed to be a higher tier, better fleet, and they've come through the TLC and find, oh, I can't do this. I've been locked out because I've got too good a fleet.
And there's also. Go ahead. Sorry.
What's the thinking behind locking out people for building a better fleet?
I think it probably was related to that the dragons might have walked it. What was
But
it?
is that not the purpose though of building a better fleet? So you do better.
Oh, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's the only thing that I can think of. And if their concern was that it was too easy for the dragons, then make one that allows dragons, and don't lock all of those players out at the minimum.
And there's also people that are using in the FM. They're using Monolith and Zelos, and the Zelos is locked out as well. So there's even that side of it as well. The people that never even melted down icebreakers because they went with the Zelos Monolith at the same tier level, but the Zelos is a generalist, so it's locked out, and it's also a lower tier. But
well, I can understand all the complaining and that stuff, but the fact of it is, how long has the icebreaker tokens been available in the FM?
Yeah, you can say that, yes, but it comes down to the fact again. Why would we collect? Why would you spend your valuable points and your time doing FM to get tokens that are for a ship that's obsolete? It comes down to that again. It's always going to come back down to, well, yes, you can get tokens. Yeah, that's great, but why would you be going out and collecting tokens for a hull that's obsolete?
yeah, and also even if you have 300 days of tokens, you're still going to find them useless unless you can get to rank them.
And then you come down to dock space again, where a lot of people have removed the ship specifically because they don't have the dock space. So now you have to go back, rebuild, get rid of all our ships that you don't specifically want to get rid of, just to do a campaign to get tokens in a time where you've got what was it, 30 days build for the OP and 14 days for other things and 10 days. You've got lots of build time, so you kind of need the tokens if you want to get things done in a reasonable time.
Yeah, I mean, the 60-day capacity does help, but then if Kicks does something like this again, now people are going to be like, well, maybe I shouldn't scrap that hull because I might need it later. And so, I guess I could understand if they had released this a long time ago in order for lower levels to catch up in preparation for OP10. But, they released it again this weekend kind of as a gimme to give more tokens for, upgrading OP10. And, it wasn't just directed to the lower players. So, yeah, I certainly feel the frustration with that.
Yeah, I just want to be careful. Like, this base race TLC was a gift. I mean, how many players doing the first prize packs got their outposts, their docks, their shipyards, everything upgraded for free. Now, okay, given a percentage of the population didn't have the right fleet and can be in, So yeah, maybe can be improved in the future. But let's be very clear. This is a very good thing. The base race TLC is a very good thing for players catching up and benefited a whole bunch of players. So
Yep.
I just want to be careful that we don't start just criticizing everything that comes up, so we don't see something like that in the future. I want to see base race again. I want to see that kind of initiative again. Yeah, it can be improved to give more accessibility to players, but you know, it's a good thing. I think fundamentally it's a good thing.
It's good that we're complaining about it being not accessible rather than it being too difficult. The differences between that campaign and the Manticore campaign for the new raid halls is the new raid hall campaigns are just way too overpowered and nobody seems to want to do them because they're too overpowered. But the base race everyone wants to do, and they're getting locked out.
Yeah, like if I may make a request, if we remove the master rounds, or even if we only limit them to 1 or 2, to give a couple of structure build and defense platform tokens, because 10 mastery rounds, I don't care. It will make me want to do anything else. If we could just have that campaign once a month to get people up, because you get so much time from the building upgrades. They're free for time. They're free for resources. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Even if I have my icebreaker because I did a mastery, and I was like, oh, fine, but I'm not going to be doing it because I have so many, I still have so many dead fleets and so much repair from this TLC for the new hulls, Devil Driver, etc. But it's so good. Can we just have more of that? And can we also, have a little leniency for repair? But I guess we'll get into that with VXP weekend, VXP day.
Yeah. Well, the repair thing from the TLC, it's just so bad that there's no way in hell I'm gonna coin any of those repairs. So what I'm doing, and I think I've seen other players in comms. I mean, I won't agree that nobody's doing the TLC. A whole bunch of people are doing the Manticore TLCs to get the holes and whatnot. But people then once you finish, you have like 16, 17, 20 hours plus your FM fleet, plus icebreakers, plus this, plus that. You play a little bit, and now you have 25, 26 hours of repair across 3 fleets.
I had 31 hours with those, plus the daily scourge and my guard fleet that was repaired.
I mean, my base was hit this morning, so I got to repair my guard. That's about 4 hours. I have my Manticore missiles repairing since this morning, and then I got to repair the scatter guns from last night, and the scatter guns are like 16 hours, I think. So if I'm just going to wait and play again probably tomorrow, maybe tonight if one of the fleets is good enough, but I'm rolling like over 24 hours of repairs, behind.
Not to mention if you get hit and your dock is repairing too. That's 2 hours added right there.
No, that happened to me this morning. It took me 2 hours and a half off my repair time when my base got hit, right? That's it.
Yeah, and we've mentioned this before that, with the higher repair too, when the map targets come in, what are those going to look like? If I can, stock up on titanium, the mantis will be for titanium. If I can stock up on titanium, with one run, great. But if I can't stock up on that with this high repair times, then I'm going to lose, build time there.
And these guys don't remember. I mean, maybe two game teams ago, that's when the guys created this pattern that didn't exist before of, running the raid cycle. And now this raid cycle, the targets go to map targets for X, uranium, titanium, whatever, FM, whatever. But those guys, when they decided to follow that path, they said, oh, we're going to always adjust the targets for the fact it's not half repair, right? And I guess we've seen that fairly consistently in the uranium targets, in the titanium targets we have now. I don't know if these guys are aware of that. Are they just going to roll the raid targets to the map at the same level of damage we're seeing in the TLC?
Hope not.
And this titanium thing, even if they look back and try to look at Siege didn't have armors that were, an hour and a half extra repair per one. And we in Assault don't have our super healing flagships that we had back in Siege. So even if you look at those numbers, they're not going to match up in terms of content.
You're right. Because you're right. Now the armor adds time and there's no matrix, healing matrix flagship. You're right. It's going to be, awful. Because today I just repaired my Hydra flag or my Skyfire flag and I keep going.
Yeah, I think that was one of the big problems they had with Raid 1 of this cycle, where if you had Scadamantes, you were going to have a bad time.
Okay, so we've got a couple minutes left. I did want to touch on VXP weekend. I know people actually have kind of finished their fleets, so they were taking their fleets out into the VXP targets to see how they would perform. I did see a couple of posts on the page. I think someone had gotten like 4 or 5 hours, I think, for 4. Has anybody on here taken their fleet into one of the VXP targets?
Yep.
Yes. I created a video for it too.
It was nifty.
It's hopefully not the same damage for the raid, because that would be quite upsetting.
Yeah, I know these are VXP targets and they're probably tuned differently, but the way that, these are kind of like for looks and feels and not necessarily the equivalent damage, because VXP, they want your fleet damage so that you get points. But somebody else said they had taken theirs in.
Yep. I took the battery in.
How did you do with that?
About 17 coin repair.
And that's a fully built fleet?
Yep. And that was with drawing the proto nemesis out, taking them on one at a time, and doing the target the way it's supposed to technically be done. And I think I went with more or less a similar build to what Ren has suggested. So it wasn't great. I think the biggest problem was the Reapers that were in there were a real pain.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, is how you handled them. As a Razor player, I can just get in their face, but
yeah,
to me,
you can't outrange them with the bat ray, and they're far too fast for the bat ray as well. So what I did was I more or less had to apply a similar tactic and try and sit on top of them as best as I could to get the weapon to function in a more damaging fashion.
I'm playing Razors. My fleet isn't near done. I think one ship is done except for the armor. And there's only one piece of armor on all 4 of my ships. So that might have been a thing that caused me some pain. Also, if you have that 5th blank, you might not want to take it into the raid with you, because I forgot that Razors and I think Bat Rays too will automatically match the slowest ship. So I had to kill my 5th blank off so that they'd go faster.
The empty ship has to have engine.
That would,
Yeah. You have to put engine on the empty ship. It's kind of mandatory, otherwise you screw the whole fleet.
And I did. Whoops. I was able to kill a target. I kind of killed the left group and 2 protos and left the right one and let it do loops for 15 minutes, and then went back in and killed the rest of the lot, barely surviving. The ships themselves seem very tough, and I know I don't have all of the reload and all the rockets I want on, but Sam, were you feeling this too? Were they really hard to kill even with Gatling guns? They just took so long to kill?
Which is this?
Just the main ships, the interceptor-looking things?
No, all those died really, really quickly for the bat ray. In fact, I'd say I took less than 25% of my damage actually from the main bulk of it, and it was more or less the rest of my damage. So 17 coins was about 50% damage on the fleet. and that's only with 4 hulls in there. They're all fully built, fully ranked now. So I was just trying to get a feel for how they were going to perform in the raid. But it was a case of the Reapers are real nasty for the bat race. So I think with what they had said about each target being tuned for the different hulls, and saying that you could potentially, while it's not optimal, go in and kill the one that's not for the hull you picked. I think not optimal is a very poor choice of wording on their part. It's not optimal. It's crap for your fleet if it's not for the one that you picked.
Okay, so you think
Putting it this way, 2 ships should not be taking 30% of your fleet's health when it's a brand new fleet.
fully built with all those resistances? Yeah, I mean, my question is more of just the general health of the ships and the target. I found them to be very high. But if you had an easy time, I know your fleet is more built out than mine is, but if you had a very easy time playing the Bat Ray, then I wonder how they're tuned for concussive resist versus explosive resist, and what's going to happen in the raid. Are the ships for the quote unquote Bat Ray target going to have higher explosive resist, or are the differences only going to be in the smart torpedoes, etc.? So that's definitely something to look at. I can somewhat verify, but not really, that Hyper 30 seems to do well. The 2 ships without Hyper 30, I'm not sure if they were being targeted by specific things, but they had a lot more damage in every stage of the target than the 2 that did have Hyper 30 on. And I know the splash damage reduction should be working on those now. So if you've got Hyper 30s, I would recommend them. And if not, there's the skirmish battery, whatever, for splash damage reduction and a bit more damage.
Yeah, I have. I did some experimenting today with 3 bat rays, and all 3 of them had Hyper 30 on them, and one of them had skirmish battery and Hyper 30. And the one that had both was doing really, really well, and until I didn't realize that the Protonem does have torpedoes, and somehow it was targeting that one that had both. So I hit several targets, but one time I got too close to the Protonem, and I guess it was targeting that one ship. It was killing everybody. It was doing great, but by the time I finished the target, it had taken twice as much damage because of the torpedoes that were hitting from the Protonem.
So, Venom, this is the VXP target with bat rays?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, it was working great against the, all the splash stuff, but the torpedoes. Has anybody done any experimentation as far as levels of evade? It's tricky because I'm not sure how we do the experiment with such a short time window as far as figuring out which one's getting targeted and at what point evade becomes effective or optimal, because we don't know the accuracy of their torpedoes that they're firing, and whether evade's even playing until you get to, you have to get to 60, 70% evade for it to be okay.
It's playing, right, because, well, I mean, I'm not sure if it, it's going to be worth it, because I'm seeing my first bat ray is dying by all the torpedoes, and yeah, it sucks. And that's dead. The torpedoes are going to be superior damage. I'm not sure what kind of damage. I guess concussive, but it could also be explosive. Probably care.
I just love crashing in the middle of the target. It's fantastic.
Always popular when that happens, and it's usually when you got a whole bunch of people watching you.
Yep.
But okay, does anybody have anything else they wanted to chat about?
It's interesting to me that stacking both the splash damage reduction specials, I had forgot you could even do that. I honestly did not know. So I'm going to test something now. Just do some math, because I think that if because splash damage reduction applies in its own layer of damage dealing. So if you can get your splash damage reduction up from 30 to 55%, or even 30
48.
to 48. Oh, they're multiplicative. Dang.
Yeah.
That's still good though.
Yeah.
Then you'd need, it'd be what? If we say 1 million to get through your resists before, the 30% reduction is going to mean 1.42 million. And if we get to 48%, then we're pushing 2 million. So that's a whole different kind of resistance that you can add to your ship. And that's going to be a lot more beneficial to you, I think, than, I don't know, say an extra armor, because it's applying in a different layer. So I might have to redo my builds and blow some FM tokens to get that change in. But thanks for that, Hefe. That's good to know.
Well, again, but also it doesn't, doesn't work versus torpedoes, and I might be losing damage. I wasn't really sure because I wasn't sure what I should put in that spot, because from what I've seen so far, the bat rays don't need the tactical insulator, because I never, when I was at the target, I didn't have to worry about any of those fields. So I didn't put that on my ships. There is the people that are putting the cryo battery on there, but I'm not sure how that's, I haven't tested that out. Has anybody here tested that out? I know Dr. Tess having some good luck with putting the cryo battery on a couple of ships, because it reduces the when the random launch override or whatever it's called occurs, you're dramatically reducing the resistances on the ships that are affected. So,
I don't think it would actually work, because I'm actually running the cryo depth charge, and I do see the depth charge, launch its cryo field, and I've seen the ships go through it, and it doesn't seem like it does anything to them.
Well, the cryo depth charge is, it's a little bit different, because that only kicks.
It's around
Yeah, it's similar, but because it only kicks in when they die. And when you kill a ship,
other ships run into it though.
Yeah, because I put that on my hunters at one point. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Also, on the note of you could actually fit all 3 of them on. A lot of people only put 2 of them on, or something like that. Or you could fit Ion Thruster 4, the Hyper 30, and then this skirmish battery, and that boosts it to, I think, around 50, a little bit higher than 50.
Okay.
So that's what I'm running right now, is those 3.
Okay.
Has anyone noticed that there's a shroud up in the top corner? And it's blue on the map?
Yes, somebody else had posted about that earlier. Wonder what that's about.
We might find out in raid 2. Dun dun dun.
Oh, there's a shroud on the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
That was where the large smart torpedoes come from in that target.
Oh.
Well, I do want to thank Kix for putting this on. I know that they said it was due to the storm on the East Coast with Florence and everything, but wouldn't it be nice to be able to have a VXP day like this, the weekend prior to the raid, for those that still trying to build their ships? I think that would be great.
Still trying to rank their ships.
Sorry?
I'm doing a target there for the benefit of Brian to show him the bat ray here, if you want to put it up.
Yeah, I think it's also for people who are still ranking their ships, which I'm sure is a lot of us, because even when we got the free hull, getting out 4 shells for VXP weekend, they're just going to run in and shoot whatever and die. They're not going to last that long. And they're not going to deal that much damage either. So having this is a great way for them to get better data when we have closer to completely done fleets, and for us to get a better idea of what we can expect maybe going into the raid.
Yep, that's another really good point. Okay, we ran a little bit over, so I think we'll just go ahead and end it there. A big thank you to everybody that joined us in chat. We appreciate you joining. And for those of you that joined me on the panel this afternoon, appreciate your time. And I guess we will touch base again next week.
Later, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Later, everyone. Good luck in the raid.